For today's episode, we sat down with Aaron Caldwell, a verse entrepreneur, but somebody really focused on veterans. Not only veterans, but really making sure that their transition from the military into their respective craft is a smooth one. So whether that means giving them the proper resources, allowing them to really map things out and see what they want as far as goals and aspirations go, and a host of other things. But he talked about, why he's not the best entrepreneur, but why that's okay. And why sometimes we really need to recognize that entrepreneurship, it can be for everybody, but it may not be for just anybody. So, and he also left some gems, for those out there who are really just looking for possibly a starting point, maybe some motivation, or even just a call to action. So without further ado, enjoy episode 94, Attitude, Not Aptitude. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner. And as the year goes on, the content has to keep going, y'all. Look, we've already been able to knock out a live event. We are really close to 10,000 plays, so really excited for that. We've already amassed 1,000 followers. I don't really know what's next for Down to Business, but we definitely have a lot coming in. Maybe some new merchandise, maybe a new giveaway or something like that. But nonetheless, the show must go on. I'm always very excited to sit down with a new business owner, entrepreneur, or whoever. Really always excited to tell the story. But this one I'm really particularly excited for, just because this is kind of the first one of this sort. And when I say of this sort, this was actually somebody who, Aaron was a gentleman who I was able to meet actually through my job here at WeWork in Tampa. And he was actually he was an ambassador for a program here called Veterans in Residence. So they pretty much, they take a lot of different veterans out there who are at different stages in their life, whether they be business owners, whether they be trying to come into business, whether they have different initiatives or things like that they have going on. And they really assist them. They help them with different things. They meet on a weekly basis, and they really do a lot of great things, not only in their community, but for these people and for their lives. So while I wasn't directly involved with this program, one of my former colleagues, Emily at the time, I was able to kind of just observe a lot of her efforts, observe a lot of what Veterans in Residence did, a lot of what Bunker Labs did, and just the work that they're doing, not only in their respective communities, even in the WeWork communities, but a lot of them, outside of that, they do their own things, from being a business owner, from being CEOs, COOs, co-founders, different things like that. So it's been really interesting to kind of just be able to follow up with a lot of them on LinkedIn and go through their profiles and see what they do and everything like that. But Aaron was somebody who, before I even knew what he did specifically, we always just had conversations. He sometimes would come by the desk and try to take the load off of me just because I was working so hard. And so he would try to, just help me out in ways and things like that. But no, somebody who was always very insightful, somebody who, when I really sat down to just talk to him or just different things, he taught me a lot. Even in our quick little exchanges and things like that, it was a lot of things that I paid attention to, and just even how he carried himself. So kind of fast forward a little bit now, when I posted one of my recap videos on LinkedIn, big shout out to my boy Wilson, Aaron reached out to me, and he was basically just like, yo, when we doing this? Like, let's make this happen. Let's connect. I got some things I want to say, essentially. So after going through obviously his profile and just seeing everything that he was doing, I was excited. I was ready for it, just because of a lot of the conversations that we had face to face, but then also seeing how his resume really speaks for itself, and not only the work that he was doing with Bunker Labs, but a lot of what he did even probably before he became a part of that. So I'm very excited, for him to give y'all a little bit of everything. I think he's really even going to give y'all a little bit of a different perspective, because that's a lot of times what he does for me. So, Aaron, how you doing today, man? How's everything going?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, and kudos to you for pushing forward with the podcast and fighting through that. That's the daily grind that many don't know about. So salute to you for that, for your efforts thus far.
Appreciate that. So for those people tapping in, I know we're going to have a host of different people, some from my side, some from your side, some probably who are going to meet us in the middle and not have any idea either side. Can you just, one, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then two, what brings you on the podcast today?
Absolutely. So to be totally honest, I have no business, no right, no privilege to be sitting here talking to anybody in a format to which they should listen to me. Right? That's Let me start off by saying that, because my journey really started probably when I was like 17, 18. I was a freshman in school at up in Indiana, University of Evansville. I was there on an academic scholarship, and I was playing football as well. So we're having like freshman orientation. And this is kind of like, for me, this is like where everything started for me. We're sitting there, I'm in the back, kind of halfway listening, not so much. The dean's up talking. Then he gets to this point where he says, look to your left, look to your right. One of you will not be here next year. And I thought to myself, man, this guy's a jerk, man. Why would he say such a thing? Like, we just getting on campus, people excited. Well, fast forward, next fall, I was at home. He was right. Lost my scholarship by not doing what I was supposed to do. Wasn't able to play sports. My lifelong dream was to play college football. I got to play for one season, never got to finish. But he knew something I didn't know, right? And so from that point forward, I started really paying attention to people who were like in a place above me, if you will, or further along than me, if you will, because I knew they had some experiences. Just by that alone, they had information that was valuable to me, even if I didn't realize it in the moment. So after my failures there at Evansville, I went on to the Air Force, and eventually, over the course of 20 years, when I retired, I got my bachelor's and my MBA and Lean Six Sigma certifications, and things like that. But other than that, man, I'm just a guy from small town Georgia, here to help people the best way I can, to be totally honest.
Absolutely, man. One, thank you for your service, but two, you hit on a very important point very early on. How sometimes it hearing a state, I've heard very similar statements to that. Look to your left, look to your right. You know, one of y'all might not make it, one of y'all might not be here, and you always kind of think like you get two thoughts in your head. I would say one, I definitely mirror what you said about, damn, why you had to put it like that. But two, oh, and you immediately start deflecting. That ain't gonna be me. Like that ain't. Y'all tripping. It's no way. Like a 1 in 3 chance. That doesn't even sound right. But little do you know. Like, and now I think about my college days, and I think about everybody who I came in with, all those smiling faces, all the bags and the gear. But I slowly start to think about how each semester faces went missing, and you'd be like, "Dang, I didn't even." It was to the point where you were so used to just seeing that person, or sometimes you would just go so on about your day that when they weren't there, when what you just like, dang, I didn't even realize. But little do you know, everybody, different opportunities, different things happen. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was that you started paying attention to people who you said were further along. And that doesn't necessarily always mean just older than you, just different things like that. But like you said, they have information that you found to be useful that you may not know. I think that's so important because a lot of times we have a hard time accepting. I won't speak for everybody. I'll speak for myself in this moment. We have a hard time accepting that we don't know it all. Honestly, that was a hard realization for me. I knew personally, I could tell you right here out my mouth, I don't know it all. But when it's proven, when I'm in a scenario or when it's really shown, it's just like, oh wow, it hits a little bit different. Or you don't want to kind of put that pride to the side all the time and realize that look, somebody out there has something. Somebody out there maybe took this L or kind of put themselves in that field so that you didn't have to, or that so you can learn from this, or that so now he can give this advice to you because he already did it. But a lot of times, if you just so like gung ho on your way or the highway, you'll miss that, or you'll kind of be naive. It'll go in one ear, out the other, and things like that. So realizing that at such a young age, because I would say 17, 18, I wasn't realizing that. I was also, not very naive in the sense that, look, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna graduate. I'm gonna do different things like that. But at the same time, all of that I took for granted, it could have easily been taken away from me. I could have easily been one decision away from not playing high school football, from not going on to then getting accepted into the college of my choice and then going there and different things like that. So, what would you say? Wow, that semester, or pretty much when you pretty much went back home, what were your immediate thoughts? Were you thinking about this teacher who kind of just said, "Yo, wasn't gonna make it," and I literally just walked right into what he said? Were you kind of just still like your way or the highway type thing? What was really going through your head now that you sitting at home now?
Yeah, so I get home and I pretty much knew what my parents were going to say. They were basically saying, "What are you going to do now?" Right? You had another crossroads, right? You got to do something. Um, and I knew I had just blown a humongous opportunity, right? Because I got to go to school of my choice. Most of it was paid for. I was playing sports and everything. It was an ideal situation, and I fumbled it. So at that point, I kind of took it upon myself as like, I got to figure my way out of this hole. And right, I knew the military was always there, but for me, that was kind of like in case of emergency, break glass type of situation. It wasn't my first choice, right? So while a lot of people want to serve and they like to claim patriotism, for a lot of people that serve, that ain't the case, right? It was the only option. Or the judge said, "Hey, you go to the military or you going to jail," whatever the case may be. So, not to say that I'm not patriotic or anything, but that wasn't my reason for serving. It was more selfish than anything else. So I knew that I had to do something, and that seemed like it provided me the best opportunity and outcome for two things: A, to get my education and to get it paid for, and B, to grow and learn who I was as a person. because clearly I was lacking there because I was just following everybody else doing what they were doing, and that's how I ended up back home, right? Because I wasn't true to myself, but I didn't know who I was. So, for those two reasons, is the reason that I chose at that point. The Air Force was the best decision for me.
I like that. I like that a lot, just because I would even say that you still went into that decision not fully knowing, but also not afraid of the unknown. Because if that was the case, you would have kind of just kept it where you were. But you were thinking about education, and you were thinking about, okay, let's do some self development here. Let's do some self reflection. Let's figure some things out. So, at what point, and it may have even been early on, as far as one of your main bases, as you said, at what point did you really start to have that shift while you were in the military? You were like, yo, I already messed up my first semester. I already messed up a scholarship. I already messed up opportunities, friends, whatever the case may be. I'm here now. I still want to get my education. I still want to go further and things like that. Because I know the military couldn't. I don't know much about the Air Force, but I know that no branch of the military is easy. So I know that this is something different for you, and like you said, we share a very similar sentiment in the respect that for me, the military was always just it's on the back burner. Like I'm thinking about it, my family, relatives, friends, different things like that. But me, that's just not me, unless I just had to do that. So at what point did you really start to feel that transition for yourself? Like, hey, I got to get this education. I really still got to make something. Aaron's gonna make something shake.
Yeah, and to be honest, even knowing that going in, it was still like 8 to 10 years before it kind of manifested and evolved, right? You could start to see the fruit of what I thought 8 to 10 years ago. Because again, I probably for the first 8 to 10 years was learning more so about Aaron, the individual, right? How to deal in different environments, adapt to different people from all different cultures and all these things, traveling and all these experiences, learning my job and trades and things of that nature. So I was learning in a different way, right? I was learning how to be a responsible adult that could function in society. And then kind of, if you will, kind of once I so-called mastered that, I think then I shifted to, oh, back to school now. I figured out how to juggle these pieces. Let me incorporate the school thing. And so it was really like 8 to 10 years in by the time I really started going back into school. And it took me, let's see, I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2008, right? Well, I graduated high school in 1990. So it's 18 years, right? It's the longest degree in the history of school. I probably went to like 12 different schools by the time I was done because, some credits didn't transfer. And so you end up taking the same course with a different name and course number, money, whatever the case may be. But I had so many credits, I probably could have had 2 degrees at that point. So 2008, I graduated with my bachelor's. In 2011, my MBA, easy. But what I learned over all that time, that it was always about attitude and not aptitude. It's not intellect that's the game changer here. It's your attitude.
That's a message. Just because one, what I want to point out in that answer, that people know that I'm big on timeline, big on timetable and everything like that. But I'm big on how it's unique to the individual, but nonetheless it's needed. And so why I say that, you said 8 to 10 years. I just think about, I've only been doing this for, it'll be 3 years in November. It feels like I've been through a whirlwind of different emotions, of lazy days, of good days, of bad days, of going to a live event now, of having videos, merchandise, things like that. That's only 2 years in. But I want, but obviously I want so much more for this. But it's just to say that sometimes it's just not your turn. Sometimes you're not going to get this immediate, like you said, you went into the military with a certain type of mindset, with a certain type of attitude. But even still, with that in your mind, it still took more time to truly develop into what you were trying to do. I tell people that all the time, that, your business, your craft, what you love, it's not, if you really love it, if this is something that you really want to dedicate yourself to, whatever it is, it's not going to come overnight. It may not come overnight for everybody. For some people, it will. That's just the way it goes. But 8 to 10 years. I talked to another gentleman who, he was doing this for five. He was training, doing AAU basketball and training people and switching gyms for 5 to 7 years, going to a different gym each week. And then he finally secured one after 5 years. But had he gave up, who knows? So that I really just go to say that, look, man, we're so big on time these days. We're so big on just wanting stuff to happen at this to just wake up and just everything just be the way we want it. You need that timeline. You need that process. Because it's going to make you appreciate everything. If we got everything just that fast, I feel like our appreciation wouldn't really be there. The prayers really wouldn't be there. The grind really wouldn't still be there as hard. Because I know for me, just something in me, I'm gonna work harder for something that took longer than something that came quicker. Like I'm not gonna, because if for something that happens fast, I'm just like, okay, I can do that again. It can't be that hard. I did it once. But for something that I have not done yet, for something that I'm still working towards day in and day out, for something that I feel myself getting closer, but I'm just not there yet. I'm gonna keep working for that because that's something that I truly want. That's a goal of mine. So for me, it really goes to say for everybody out there listening, man, look, the grind, no matter what it is, because in this case, we're not even really talking business wise. We're talking self development. We're talking 8 to 10 years. Aaron had to figure out who he was. That's hard. That's hard because you go through a whirlwind of emotions. Life was probably great at some points. Life was probably not so great at some points. Life was probably in the middle at some points, but nonetheless, you still had to keep figuring it out for 8 to 10 years. And then even after that, you still got things to happen because then I'll go one step further. People say, okay, well, once I get to where I want to be, once I figure it out, I achieve what I want to achieve, it doesn't stop. It can't stop. We would be fools to just get where we want to be or figure ourselves out or do the self development or get that education or get that degree. Oh, and just kick back and relax. No, if anything, now you really got to kick it into overdrive to make sure one, that it sticks, and two, that you keep going from that. Because finding out who you are is all fine and dandy. But if you start to revert back to old ways or old habits, well, you kind of just throwing all that time that you just put in the trash in a sense, or you kind of just not really taking it serious. So you have to still continue to actively work on you, pursue different things, pursue different goals. That's why I think it's so important to stay hungry, but appreciate the timeline, appreciate that process. It's about attitude, not after. I love that, man, because you can be so keen, you can be so sharp here. If you ain't got the right mindset with it, if you ain't just have the right attitude, if you don't have the right approach to it, you'll never. I know some of the smartest people, some of the most skilled individuals that they just can't put that pride to the side. That they may just have that anger problem that they can't, get right. They hate being told no. Maybe they can't take instruction properly or work in a certain type of environment. They really just want things their way. Got to be able to adjust. You got to have. You're not going to like everything you're not going to like every card you're dealt. You're not going to like every person you work with. You're not going to like every venture and different things like that. I love every body who I brought on this interview, so ain't got to worry about that. But it just goes to say that, look, we all have our skill sets. We all have our flaws, our fallacies, pros, cons, different things like that. What's your attitude like, though? How do you approach that? How do you go about that? How do you communicate that with others? Are you shooting people down? What's your perspective? I love perspective. I love, the fact that I can feel my way, you can feel your way, and we can disagree, but they're both valid. So I love that. So, okay. So now we go through 20 years of the military. You got your degrees, you got your education now. What how did you really, where did Bunker Labs come into the word? I won't even really say Bunker and veterans. What I'll really say, I want to do the bigger picture, because the bigger picture, what I see behind these organizations and what y'all do is y'all are helping people. Y'all are helping people in similar positions to y'all, or who served like y'all, or who are veterans, or different things like that. But they may not have access to all of the resources, but they may not have the mindset, but they may not just have, they may just need that extra step. Sometimes they just need a little bit of motivation. Sometimes they need order, different things like that. What really propelled you in that space? Why did you really want to start helping people and then being an ambassador for others?
So for me, I'm a helper by God's design. I'm a helper. That's who I am, and I fought that for many years. That was part of my journey of figuring out who I was, and maybe why I was struggle so much in some areas and not so much in others, is because while I'm an introvert and I don't necessarily like to be around people, my gift is that my perspective and my experiences allow me to help people. So I have this internal conflict all the time. Like I'm constantly playing tug of war with myself. But so I knew I was a helper, right? Um, got out of the military. Of course, I went worked for the government. I worked in city government, state government. I worked in nonprofit sector, and I was just like, man, this ain't it. I'm unfulfilled. This ain't it. Something's missing. My wife was doing similar, so we started a business. Like just up one day, we started a business. So we're doing this business thing and we don't really know what we're doing, right? I have classroom knowledge of business from having an MBA, but that doesn't always translate into real world, everyday practical application. So we started trying to find resources available to help, right? So we started finding, oh, there's resources for this and there's resources for that. But we really stumbled upon these resources for veterans. And so at the same time, I had also started a coaching business. I got my MBA, then I went and got another master's in marriage and family therapy, right? So I do counseling and coaching. I started a life coaching business. I started coaching people, mainly transitioning veterans like myself who were having trouble with getting out of that uniform and then coming in like acclimating ourselves to quote unquote civilian life because it's a different element out here than it is when you're part of a larger organization like the military. So I was already coaching and I was helping veterans. And then naturally, since we were in business, it just gravitated to, well, we made tons of mistakes and they cost a lot of money and a lot of sleepless nights. When you're in business making mistakes, they cost. There's a cost to it. So I'm like, how can I help these people, even if it's in the slightest way, right? Even if it's not a business concept, it might be something personal because there is no on off switch between Tamar, the person, and Tamar, the entrepreneur. They're continuous, right? So the issues that Tamar experiences in one facet of his life roll over into the next, and that cycle just continues. So if I can help people be more efficient at home, it's likely I can help them be more efficient in their profession. Same principles apply to one as applied to the other. One just deals more with was weighted by money, and the other deals more with like quality time, if you will, when you're talking like personally speaking. So that was kind of how we just gravitated into this. I'm gonna see how I can help people, and I'm all in on it.
Okay. That's important, man. It's crazy too how a lot of times I've said this so many different episodes, but it always holds true. How a lot of times our involvement and how our interest is peaked in certain things just because we can relate so heavily to it. Like you said, you kind of became interested in this. You kind of wanted to help just because you recognized that there was, in a sense, like a disconnect there that the veterans didn't always have everything that they may need, or sometimes that they had certain things but they didn't know about it. So why not put those, those keys and different things like that? Why not go get the education? Why not go get the resources and stuff like that to be able to put them in position? Because, like you said, sometimes all it just takes is a little, but sometimes it just takes something that's better than nothing. And if you can do that at home, then you can definitely translate that into different areas of the life as well. So, do you feel as if, because I kind of just use the word myself, but I'm kind of very interested to know from your perspective, do you feel as if once people become better, once you pretty much retire from the military or discharge, honorable and things like that, do you feel as if there's a disconnect between the real world and really what veterans experience, how they, because off, and the only reason why I ask that is because I think about a lot of times how we look at homelessness, we look at a lot of these stories that we hear about people with the PTSDs or just with served all these amount of years but are not taken care of, are living, are almost living as if they never served this country at all. So do you feel as if when people kind of become veterans, leave the military and things like that, there's a disconnect with propelling them into the real world?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yes, and this answer is my own. This is not supported probably by the Department of Defense or any branch of service, but this is just my own based on my own personal experiences. So this is what I think happens. We enter into this organization, i.e., the military, right? Which in many ways it is an institution, no different than prison, right? Everybody dresses the same, use the same vernacular, eat the same time. Everything's the same. And it's that way for a reason. So you can control large groups of people and basically have one thought, right? Whatever that thought is. In military, your life is dependent upon tomorrow's ability to cover my back. So we all have to be operating at the same level, same understanding, same everything, right? Well, that's great. If you do that for 20 years, that's cool, right? You've been in a system that supports you. They support your growth, development, success, everything. Their success is dependent upon your success. Well, now you transition into the civilian life and it's every man for himself, right? Me and you fighting for the same promotion, right? You ain't necessarily trying to help me like you were when we were brothers in arms, right? So it's different. And so the military member, whether they're conscious of that or not, that mentality still exists. And it was hard to turn that off because you've done that for 8, 10, 12, 20 years, right? And then you come out here in the jungle, right? Where it's like all these wild exotic animals and you don't know the rules. They're not the same. They change from place to place. No one looks the same. Their success is not necessarily dependent upon yours. So it's very competitive. And so it'll take a while for you even to adapt and adjust to that mindset to then figure out where you are, where in the pecking order, to then figure out a strategy to get where you need to be. So there's just like so much going on there, right? And it's if you don't know that, if you have to think of it like, oh, okay, think of a guy leaving the military almost as if you would somebody that's coming out of prison, right? They got to reacclimate themselves because the world's different. It's similar. We're free, but not really, right? A lot of rules, restrictions, restraints, all for your benefit. Not so much true out here. So that adjustment is just different.
It's so crazy how you just broke that down to me, but it makes so much sense. You know how you almost essentially go from a village where everybody's kind of just one and the same, one of those almost one of those communities where everybody knows each other. Everybody knows that you go into a town, a real small town, everybody know everything. It's only like two stoplights, different things like that. And then you kind of just erase all of that and put these folks in New York City or just the Hunger Games type thing, or everybody fighting for themselves. Because now that you say it like that, I get it. You know how y'all are. It's that one thought, that one sound, one band, one sound type mentality. So to tell somebody else now to put them in a competitive mindset, no, I'm not. I'm used to being side by side with folks. People who we're putting our lives on the line for each other. But now you're telling me I kind of almost gotta negate this person's best interest and just think about them. That's hard, especially when time is working against you, when money is working, because we live in us, unfortunately, the society we're in right now, man. If you ain't got money in some capacity, you're not gonna make it long. You're not gonna make it long, especially with everything. Nobody want to work. Nobody want to do this and do that. So, wow, that's so interesting that you said it like that. But wow, that makes so much more sense. I guess it was what is ingrained in you, and now you almost get thrown into the real world. Because, like you said, y'all are free in a sense. Like obviously, certain protocol and rules to follow. Damn, when you do it like that, that is kind of crazy. Okay, so with that in mind, with what you do as well, from the coaching even to even what you do with VIR, veterans and residents, how do you how do you propel that shift? How do you help people? Well, not even propel it, but how do you help people understand that mind? How do you help people even transition to that and say, hey, that where we once were here, we're not there anymore. This is real life. What do you really say to somebody who has been ingrained for years and years and years to think, all in one?
Yeah, and I've been in a lot. I've been a part of a lot of veteran programs, right? Because there's a lot of money when you say I'm going to start this new thing and it's for veterans, right? Everybody's open up the checkbook for USA, everybody, right? Support these veterans, but in some ways, it's like a double-edged sword because you're not really helping the veteran, right? You're just giving them another place to go and gather. It's almost like it's a lodge or something, right? A bunch of vets get together and talk about what they used to do back in the day. So for me, I'm like trying to focus on business and get away from the vernacular used in the military, right? When you enter into the elevator, you need to sound just like the owner of whatever other company or corporation, not talking the military jargon or what you used to be or whatever. If someone asks you, great. But I'm hardly ever, never do I lead with people will ask me because they say, oh, something different. Like you need kind of tell military people, but I never lead with that because that life is, I use it when I need to, but I don't want that to be the lead. If I'm running a company or organization, that's my entrance. Let's talk about that. We can talk about how me being a veteran maybe has impacted that or why or what I do, but that's not the lead. So I'm always pushing the veteran entrepreneurs and companies and startups and ideas to like really focus on the business. Don't think about what you feel somebody may owe you or you're obligated to because you're a veteran and serve. Throw that out the window. No one cares. Right? You're going to get some things, but it's not going to make your business because you're a veteran owned company. We know plenty of them. You and I both. Right? They're progressing, but it is slow. It's not like bam, you start them. So to really, it's no different. Once you're in business, you're in business. I don't care what your prior background is. It's got to be business principles. It's got to solve a problem, it's got to be something somebody's willing to exchange their money for. Otherwise, it's just a hobby.
Important though, very. And I would say that even I feel like we can even translate that to just people in general. How the same way how you said like you're not going to make the military the lead. You're not going to make that you're in business for a particular reason. Whatever you're offering, whatever you're trying to offer, sell, whatever the case may be. I think that people need to realize that as well. That oftentimes I feel like we try to throw credentials out there, throw accolades out there, throw different things out there to further sell ourselves, but also thinking that that is going to propel the business when a true business owner, a true entrepreneur, somebody truly, looking at your product and your service is going to differentiate that every single time. I'm not really shopping with Tamar, with Aaron, no, I'm shopping with what you do with your product and your service. Now, can I take into account, maybe how you are, who you support and different, absolutely. But at face value, as somebody just looking at something on the shelf or advertisement or everything, they're looking at the product. What are you selling? What are you doing? What are you offering me? Not, like you said, almost like it hurts to say, but like they care less about you being a veteran, about you winning this award, or about you having this type of act. Everything at the end of the day, or do I want to spend my money here? What is this? How is this the best thing on the market and everything like that? But I think that that's important too for business owners, just because too it shows you true to your product. Nobody wants to hear about, oh, I'm the 5-time da 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 da. What does your product do? Because a lot of people because at the same time I think about a lot of these people, even more so like my generation, I guess maybe even a little older, but they have all these followers, they have all these verifications, these check marks on Instagram and Twitter and everything like that. But your product is terrible. But your customer service is horrendous. But your reviews are not, you 2-star reviews and different things like that. You're not really you're just thinking that because you have this name, because you have this status, people are just supposed to overlook everything else. And that's the name of the game at the end of the day. Why would I want to spend my money with somebody like that? It can be, you can call yourself the best of the best, the number one person in Florida, da, 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 da. But if I can go shop with somebody else who's going to give me a quality product and they're up and coming, why would I not do that? Different things like that. So I feel like sometimes as people, we can definitely be caught up in names and just accolades and everything like that. So it's a big important to differentiate the two. Okay, what do you take?
I mean, people. So think about it like this: like people are paying to get in front of your face, right? For you to consume whatever their product or service is. Like they're paying money
Mhm.
to get in front of your face. That, in my mind, if it was spent on product development, they wouldn't need to pay the money. Great brands don't need commercials. They don't need sales. The price is the price. You know where they're at. They tell you when they're releasing something. You wait for it and you get it, and you pay the full price. Period. Period.
I just thought about I saw this post the other day. It says I've never seen a Chinese food commercial. I said, wow. I said that's a very great point. Like, you just know that, like you said, a brand is going to speak for itself. It don't matter all this. You could throw all the marketing and things you want like that. At the end of the day, somebody knows what they want. They know when they shopping
Yeah.
for accessories, this is what they want. They know when they shopping for food, this is what they want. They know when they shopping for a certain type of niche, this is what they want. Whether you've thrown all this money in product development or different things like that, I really genuinely do agree with that. Great brands, great marketing,
So
it doesn't need it.
I tend to think, like, I try to impress upon the people that I'm working with or I'm helping, even my own business and others who even think about it. Like, think about where you fit in these three buckets, right? I call them PPPs, right? There's a price, there's people, and there's a product slash service, right? And if you think about price, we're talking about value. So now immediately Walmart comes to mind. People go to Walmart for value. They ain't going there because of the people, because the customer service sucks, the culture sucks. They ain't necessarily going there because of the product or the services, right? They're going there because of the price. Now, if we talking people, we talking culture. I think like Chick-fil-A. Lines are long, you wait, they always nice, with a smile, efficient, right? Then we talking product or service, we talking like the apples. They never offer sell. Don't make a phone today and tell you we messed up on the camera. We're improving it on the next one that'll be out in 6 months. And then in 6 months, people will line up, pre-order the phone, and stand in line and wait for it because they believe in that product. So you got to know like why people are doing business with you. Is one of those three P's? And if you know which one you do well, then focus on that one. If you do another one well as well, then you just ahead of the game. But you got to know why people are doing business with you, and that's in business and are with as a person as well, right? People are operating or doing business or having transactions with you, personal transactions with you, and interactions based on your strengths and weaknesses, and based on how they can manipulate you in some to some degree, right? I'm gonna get what I want from tomorrow, whether it's positive or negative. I can manipulate it because I know him. I know how to get the response I want. And then when they don't want that, they avoid you. So you just gotta know. You gotta be very aware, business, personally, professionally, all the way around.
You got to know what you do well. You got to capitalize on that before you start trying to bring in so many different entities to the table. I really think that that's so important. Not having, as they say, like not having too much on your plate, too much on your chip. Like you have to start scale small. People think that, oh, just because I got a little skill or I got a little traction here, all right, well, let me move on to the next. No, take that traction, get more and get more and get more almost until it's second nature for you. Because like you said, those three P's, you have one of those has to be second nature before you even think about another one. If like you said, you
Yep.
got two, oh cool, ahead of the game, you're making it happen. Focus on one though. See how much it takes to really truly establish one. Not just get it, not just get lucky with it a few times, not just have some success with it. Establish means it's consistent every time. It means you don't got to worry about it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's no question. Even on your worst month, it's still solidified. So I think that's important right there. So knowing what you know, knowing with what you also instill in other people, other businesses, other entrepreneurs, and things like that. How has that really translated to your life and what you do and the balance that you have? Because obviously, for as much as you help others and bestow your knowledge and the resources and everything like that and put people in position, essentially, you still have your own things going on. How has that balance and how has that really come together?
Man, that is like, that's the question that remains to be answered, right? I'm on a quest like every day, honestly, to like answer that question. So I was at one of the bunker retreats and someone on staff asked me, he's like, what do you get out of helping these companies, right? Because you're volunteering all your free time. Like, what do you get? And I told him my answer was that, I get fulfilled in seeing them grow and achieve their goals and dreams and hopes, right? To pursue that. And I honestly do. So that's why I spend a lot of time, whether it's I mentor high school students and things like that, trying to help them not walk in my path, but like fast forward them, if you will, right? We can't jump every hurdle for them, but I can get them past a few that they don't need to jump. I already jumped them or knocked them over. I can help you get around that. So that's my reason for going back and helping young high school kids. And then with these entrepreneurs, to be honest, I am not a good entrepreneur, right? I've had a business. My wife and I have a business now. She's much better at entrepreneurship than I am, but I had to learn that by going through it. So a lot of times I'm working with people who have startups or ideas or whatever. I'm trying to evaluate also whether they're cut out for it. Do you have the mustard, right? Do you have the grit, the resilience it takes? Are you sensitive? I found out through entrepreneurship that I'm much more sensitive than I thought I was. Like my feelings get hurt. You know what I mean? Like I can't hear no, but so many times and I'm done. My wife, she can take a no and thank you and keep going. I'm like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. Or people unethical or shady or immoral, whatever, all those different things that come up when you're doing business. You have to like know that going into it. Like it's gonna get a little dirty, right? You're gonna have to make some hard decisions. A lot of us are spending our own money to fund these companies. How long can you do that? Does your family support you in that? If not, that's a hard conversation you gotta have. So all those things are I'm constantly like trying to evaluate, okay, Aaron, are you still comfortable, happy doing what you said you wanted to do when you started this, which was to help people and to see them grow? And to be honest, my frustrations come not because of something I'm doing, it comes because of something that they are not doing. Or I think that they should be doing that they're just not doing. That frustrates me more than me dropping my own ball, if you will. Because I want them to do so much better than me.
That makes me think of something when whenever people comment or even message me, call me or anything, but whenever they use the word, I'm trying to be like you, my response always, don't be me, be better than me. And that's exactly why right there, because something that this has taught me is like you said, when your feelings are in something, when your time is in something, emotions, money, everything like that, you treat it different. Like a man, woman, whoever. Like I starting this podcast really showed me that like I genuinely care about people's success. I genuinely care about what people do, what they're not doing, what they are doing, what they could be doing better, and everything like that. But I've also gotten to different points where I realized I felt like I wanted more for people in their business than they wanted for themselves, and that's a hard battle because it's just like how do you address that without sometimes messing up a relationship? How do you address that without coming off to some as angry, rude, different things like that? But to me, it's just passion. To me, I'm only raising my voice. I'm only kind of going back and forth with you because I care about you. Because if I didn't, well, I just turn around and I just head out. It's not that deep for me. But because I really want you to get right, because I've seen what can really happen when you apply yourself, I've watched it. I look at back across my 80, 90 episodes. I see what some people were doing really right and why they are where they are. I see what some people could be doing just a little bit better just to get them up there. And then I see what some people, are down here. And not to say that they're doing anything wrong, but it's just if you made a little tweak or if you just applied yourself just a little bit more, you can work your way up that totem pole. And that's all I want for people. That's something that definitely I've learned about myself. But I've also learned too that it gets to a point where they have to want it too. They have to want to do. But I think it goes back to what you said about something that you analyze from the very beginning. Are they cut out for it? Not are you a good person? Not who are you? Not is your family? Are you cut out for this? Because, like you said, sometimes people don't realize that anybody. I'm gonna say this in the same breath. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur. What I mean by that is that basically anybody can just wake up and say, "Hey, I want to go into business today. I want to start my, da da da." Everybody can't sustain that entrepreneurial life. It is a different lifestyle. I watch people who I'm not even people thought I did this full time. I wish I was a full time podcaster. No, but I watch full time podcasters and I listen to their stories, or I watch full time entrepreneurs or business owners or things like that, and I listen to their stories, and I'm like, dang, some of that stuff I don't even think I could have. I see why I'm still working my 9 to 5. Or you telling me you did what for how long? You were sleeping where? You had how much to your name and you huh? Family did what? Just because everybody's situation and things are different. So I think one of the biggest determining factors in the beginning are you cut out for this. You could be a great person, but the same way we need entrepreneurs, we need 9 to 5ers. We need those certain type of people, and that's not to say that that's something that you just have to be content with all your life. But the entrepreneurial lifestyle will open your eyes to a lot of different things, good, bad, ugly, everything like that. And sometimes you can't handle it. I've watched certain entrepreneurs, it changed their whole life for the better. And I've watched some, it changed their whole life for work. Almost before you stepped into that space, you were better off just working a 9 to 5. But because you did that, because you tried that, you really learned, what the ins and outs. This is not for the weak. It's not for the weak hearted at all. You have to be able to, like you said, taking no's is only one part of the game. Only one part of the game. From the sleepless nights to just procrastination to just people not taking your time and craft as serious as you, man. It's so much that goes into this. So as a person, you can only take for so much, especially if you're doing it by yourself, man. Oh, then that's a totally different conversation. So
Yeah.
I think that that's so important, though. But I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We just think that anybody can do this. Anybody can. Anybody. Everybody does it anyway. Everybody's doing hair. Everybody's selling the makeup, the clothes, different things like that. Why can't I? Well, why can't you? Because you're a little bit too emotional, or your procrastination is too high to the point where you're just gonna keep putting yourself behind the 8 ball, or you're gonna be in, or you don't have the monetary support. People don't realize that a lot of this is about money, man. It takes money to make money, but if you don't have any money to begin with, what are you gonna do? What are a lot of times that I said that has been the make or break sometimes. Yes, we all think if we had more money, if we had more access to resources, I could do this, I could do that. Yeah, anybody could, but you don't. And two, that's not always true because still, I can give you the resources, I can give you the money. If you don't have it here, what I'm gonna do? You could blow it all. It can just be,
Yeah,
that's why,
it's tough. It's tough. The ability to execute over and over and over and over again is basically what entrepreneurship is, right? An employee has the luxury of having a few bad days, bad weeks even, and still making, making what they make. Um, Entrepreneurs, not so much. Something's gonna happen. Something bad's gonna happen. And so if you're not the type where you can just be self motivated to just make 20 phone calls, respond to every email, do all the things you don't want to do because you don't know where the business is actually coming from just yet, which truly when you start out, you don't really know. So you kind of have to treat everybody as if this could be it. Even, as you go on, you figure out like, oh, that's not a good use of my time. But in the beginning, you don't know. So you trying to get your name out there, you trying to make people believe in you, to know, like, trusting. It's difficult. And if that's not in your DNA, if that's not your personality, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have some sleepless nights, you're gonna cry yourself to sleep. It's gonna be ugly. But it's really about the ability to execute in the long term. It's like a marriage. You're married to this business.
Happy wife, happy life, fellas. Nah, but I
Seriously. Trust
no,
me.
but absolutely, you have to think. I was talking to my roommate about that the other day. That it's to the point now where yes, I'm very big on living in the moment, just enjoying things for what they are, taking it as one step at a time. But a lot of my decisions, a lot of my mind frame, a lot of what I'm thinking about, investing in, talking about, trying to put my foot in, trying to learn about, it's long term. I'm 25, but I think about how 7 years ago I was 18, but I can remember turning 18 like it was yesterday, and 7 years just went by like that. We've been in a pandemic for nearly three, and that just went by like that. So before I know it, I'll be
Right.
30. Then I'll have kids. Then I'll be married. I can't keep thinking about, just trying to live in the moment, just trying to explore everything. Because 35 is around the 10 years is around the corner. High school reunions, college reunions, that's all around the corner. So for me, you have to, like you said, you have
Right.
to go into it with long term in mind. No, every T is not going to be crossed, every I is not going to be dotted. But if you're not even giving it some thought, you're already behind the eight ball. So something that I think about is something that really stood out to me that you said here is that I'm not the best entrepreneur, and I like that. I like that because it takes that transparency, but it holds true. We can all look at and I'm talking to everybody across anybody who I've ever brought on and anybody who I'll talk to further. There's always room for improvement. There's always something that you could be doing better. We're not 100% at where we are, and if you are at 100% than where you are, then let's do some reevaluation because I guarantee we can set some new goals. We can reach some new levels, reach some new heights, reach some new people. It's always room to work. What do you say to the people out there who share that same sentiment as you, who feel as though they're not the best entrepreneur, who feel as though they could be doing more, who feel as though that they're even for those who are thinking about coming into business who may not necessarily have all the pieces off the ground just yet or may not necessarily have the ball rolling yet. What do you say to those people who still want to stay steadfast, still want to stay motivated, looking at the career that
Yeah.
you took, the path that you took, the decisions that you made to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so you don't have to be the best. I've learned that, but you do have to recognize that you're not it, so that you can bring on someone that does well what you don't do. When I used to hire people, my goal was when I was a hiring manager and I hired people, my goal was to always hire people that possessed a skill that I could not train them to do. Right. So if they had something that I couldn't train them to do, that's gold. If I could train them to do it, then it doesn't matter. But they possess something, some soft skills, some nuances, something right there. I can't train, like in athletics, you say speed, right? You can't train speed or height, right? You can't train height in basketball. So if you own a business or you have a great idea and you're having a problem executing, don't give up on it, especially if you've gotten enough information from the market to say that, yeah, they validated your idea, the concept, all that, and you're just not one to get it executed. Then you go hire a COO to help you, right? You hire a CEO to help you. You just be the founder and let them execute the vision. And as long as you can communicate that well, then you're okay. The reason I like to say that I'm not a good entrepreneur is because I deal with so many, right? And so I don't want them. I'm always trying to level the playing field, or if not, put me below them, if you will. I don't want them to think like I have this basket of gold, and once we have this conversation at the end, you're gonna go out and be like Jeff Bezos. I don't want that to be the case, right? In a lot of ways, I'm learning. And in some ways, I'm ahead of them. In some ways, they're teaching me things. It just depends. But a lot of it is about, it's not so much about education as it is about accountability and being able to come back and say, hey, tomorrow, I missed the mark last week. I didn't call the 5 people each day like I said I was going to do. Okay, well, then we know why you didn't yield the results you want to yield. So until you're willing to do that, if you're okay coming back, looking me in the face every week and telling me I didn't do what I said I was going to do, then that's we know why the business is where it is and why it isn't. That's on you. So being able to have somebody that's in the trenches with you and understands what you're going through and have them hold you accountable, you hold them accountable, there's there's no dollar value I can put on that really, because it really is hard. It's a tough thing to do. So if you're an introvert and you have to go cold call 20 people every day, that's 100 phone calls, and that's the last thing you want to do. But yet your business won't move until you do that. Then that's tough, right? That's a very hard internal struggle to have to by yourself. So with the groups of people I work with, as early as possible, I like to get to the most vulnerable, transparent place we can be so that people can operate as their true, authentic selves so that we can just then have conversations that mean something and not like superficial, quote unquote, just business conversations, if you will.
That vulnerability is important. That transparency, just because I feel like it washes away a lot of the BS. Whereas a lot of times, like you said, we can meet, we can hop on these calls, we can get to these networking events or seminars, workshops, whatever you want to call them. But we're not really getting down to the nitty gritty. Essentially, we're kind of tackling a little bit of what we could work on, what we could do, and things like that. But it's more so all about we're thinking about goals and near. No, we need to start at home first and really get ourselves down. Why is the business like this? Why am I like this? How am I? You really have to know about yourself to really, because the minute you start to negate things or push things to the wayside or ignore certain things, that's when the business falters. The business needs all of you, all of the real you. That takes everything. That takes the good with the bad. The Down to Business podcast has seen every side of it. It's seen the frustrated side. It's seen the lackadaisical side. It's seen the happy-go-lucky side when everything is just going right. It's seen the angry side when I feel like people are wasting my time. It saw the side where I just was not yielding the results that I wanted. Why? Because I wasn't doing what I had to do. It's so crazy about the thing about being in business by yourself is that you have nobody else to blame. That's why I love this game, because it's just like, not game, but I love this because it's just like when my sales aren't where they need to be, when my views aren't where they need to be, when emails aren't getting sent out, when promotion, why haven't I dropped the episode in 10 days? Oh, well, tomorrow, why haven't you dropped the episode in 10 days? Like, what do I have nobody to ask, nobody to blame, nobody to question but myself. That's why I really love so much about this. But I feel like as a business, we need to internalize more. We need to realize that, a lot of it is not outward. A lot of it is not the people. A lot of it is not sometimes we're not even reaching our target audience, and we don't know that, and we don't realize that.
Yeah.
So,
Um, One thing I found that helps a lot of, especially solo entrepreneurs, and where it's just one or two people or two or three people, is the typical nature of us people is that we often don't move without consequences. So when they don't exist, create them. So if you don't send the 10 emails, then you don't go out to eat on whatever day. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Like
right, I got you.
if you can create consequences, it'll make you move, right? Think about it. Most of the stuff you do that isn't fun is because there's a consequence to it. You pay your bills because, right? You
Yeah.
try the speed limit because, right? You got to create consequences sometimes in your business to get you in the habit of doing it. And then once you're in that habit of doing it, you can remove the consequence. It doesn't matter anymore because it's not the thing prompting you to do it. But in the beginning, you need a real hard consequence that you're going to hold yourself to, or somebody else, whether it's your boy or whatever. Create it and then see what happens and see if things don't start happening.
Hey, he gave me a call to action. He gave y'all a call to action. I think he even gave himself a call to action. He's probably already done it. That's why he dropped it on here. But no, I like that. I definitely do like that because, like you said, 9 times out of 10, almost everything that we do that's not recreation, that's not fun based, it's because it's a consequence, right? So now tailor that to you. I like that. Okay, I like that a lot. I'm gonna definitely do that. I'm gonna definitely start doing that. So before we officially close things out, before we allow people to know where they can utilize your services and get in contact with you and things like that, do you feel like there's anything we haven't touched on today? Any, even a last message that you want to leave for anybody who may be tapping into this episode? Anything that you feel as though we haven't talked about with you, with what you do, with what you're looking to do as the year goes on? Anything like that?
For me, the real big thing for me, and especially in the age in which we live, where everything is instantly accessible and you can see everybody's lives and live in color, is to learn how to define and be comfortable with your definition of success, right? So I'm a coach. So there's tons of coaches on Instagram and everywhere else. And we always see them stand in front of a crowd that they just presented at or spoke at or whatever the case, right? If you start aligning everything you do or checking everything you do against people that work in your industry, it's not going to end well. Because if they're posting, guess what? That means they're posting because they're active. The people who aren't active are not posting, right? And just because they're posting doesn't mean it's not 10 years old or whatever the case may be. You can do one event and get content that could last for months if done properly. So for me, the change came for me where I define success for me, whether that's monetarily or how much time I spend doing whatever the things is that I do, and then I'm able to communicate that back to people when I feel I need to. And I don't always need to, right? You don't have to, right? If you know what success is for you, how many listeners per week, whatever, cool. Don't worry about what everybody else says. But you have to be comfortable with determining that and then standing firm in that and then operating with that in mind so that you can be like, you know what, I'm successful this week. Whereas other people are saying, man, he could do more. I could, but I hit my goal. I'm successful. I'm done. And so once you can learn to do that and get comfortable who you are, that's both as a person and in your professional career. I think that helps ease stress and anxiety and all these things, these pressures we put on ourselves.
Very important. Very important. Especially like you, I think the key phrase in there was in this day and age. We live in such a time where it's just so quick to open your phone or get on social media or just see something. And like you said, one, you hit the nail right on the head. You don't know what people are really doing behind closed doors. You don't know if he's repurposing an event he did months ago still to make it look like but like you said, you can't worry about things like that. You have to worry about what is your measure, what are your consequences, what are your actions, everything like that. Everything has to be your base. It's not, don't think about the industry, don't think about who's top dog, don't think about who's next to you, everything like that. Think about you, because I guarantee you, even some of these people are so high up or even so just successful or so locked in, they're in a world of their own. They don't know what competition is like in a sense, and I want to get to that point because, well, honestly, I really think back a lot to 2019 me and podcasts. I didn't know what a podcast was to even know who to look at to compare me to. So it was just like, now once you tell me that so many people have different podcasts and everything like that, it's just like, well, one, they're not talking about what I'm talking about, but two, even if you are, well, what I've literally been so into this lane for so long, it came to the point where it didn't even start this populace, and now it's kind of saturated, as people want to call it. Okay, let it be saturated, because at the end of the day, if you're doing what you're doing for a particular purpose with a particular reason in mind, with a particular goal or success in mind, all of that extra stuff is just literally what I call it. It's
Yeah.
just extra stuff. So I love that for sure. So for people looking to get in contact with you, for people to looking to learn more about you, even because I know I'm gonna have some veterans tapping into this as well. What's the best outlets? What's the best places to kind of reach you and be able to
I mean, honestly, LinkedIn's probably the best just because I check it frequently and I respond to it more so than I do the other ones. I have social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm a realtor as well, a coach, as well as my wife and I have a business. I got my hands in a lot of pots, but I could be found just about anywhere. But honestly, LinkedIn's probably the best because I do make sure to respond to people there. The other ones are kind of you get spam and bots and all this
got
crazy stuff.
you?
But yeah.
All right, so I'll make sure I include all of that in the episode for sure, for sure. So, nah, Aaron, I just want to thank you first and foremost just for the time. I want to thank you for the support. You not only showing me and my platform, but just for how eager you were to get on here, and then get on here and like I really spoke about before we even hit play. I knew you were going to teach me a lot of things today. I knew you were going to get that perspective. I knew you were just going to really just open my eyes to just a new way of thinking, which is something I really appreciated about our relationship since I've been able to acquaint with you. So, one, I thank you for that. Just thank you for sharing this space with me. But two, I thank you for everything that you're doing. I feel like we definitely share a lot of the same sentiments in just wanting to propel others to success and just wanting others to really, take their goals, take their vision, and really bring it to life, and then really kill it and crush it and really make it happen, all while chasing our dreams and our goals at the same time. So I commend you for that, and I'm definitely wishing you, VIR, Bunker, everything like that, the nothing but the best. And I feel like I'm gonna end up getting involved with y'all in some capacity anyway. So I'm definitely excited to be able to do that. But no, to everybody out there who continues to listen to the podcast, who continues to tap in, who continues to show love, make things happen, shop with us, everything like that. Whoever pulled up to Charlotte and made things happen. I'm not going to stop talking about Charlotte. But no, I really appreciate everybody wholeheartedly. I really thank y'all for everything. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast. Here with Tamar Turner.